Antony Graf spent his competitive career being one of the best Olympic Taekwondo fighters in America in his era. Multiple national team selections, a Pan Am Games silver medal, 2 Olympic alternate designations, his competitive record is unusual to say the least. But what he built after competition is what brings him to grit and glory. Martial arts schools in Miami choose Athlete Compound, a performance training organization built for athletes by people who understands what athletes actually need. And a book for parents, which may be the most structurally important thing on that list. Graf understood that the system reproduces itself through the next generation, and someone has to tell the truth about what that system is before the next round of children are fed into it.
Welcome to Grit and Glory, a podcast about what performance culture gets wrong and what it costs the people who buy in. With 2 athletes turned institutional critics who've lived inside the systems they're taking apart, they bring their combined experience in sport and high-pressure professional life to conversations that are honest, embodied, and unafraid. No optimization hacks, no motivational theater, conversations that are honest, embodied, and unafraid. So get ready to experience grit and glory.
We are here to talk to Antony Graf, the one.
Hello, everybody.
Master.
That's his official title, and which he has earned. But we'll probably go back and forth and maybe just call him Tony or Mr. Graf.
Tony's fine.
We'll see how he goes. But tell him why he's here. Tell him why he's here. This is exciting. I'm trying not to talk too much this time. Well, I'll talk. Okay, so we're all nerdy now because we have, like we said, Antony Graf here. And it's a very special guest for a million reasons, and you'll find out why. But we will do an introduction, a formal introduction on the video before we even start this. But just to recap really quick, he was one of the most successful athletes in the sport, Taekwondo, Olympic Taekwondo, for over a decade. I had the life, and I'm excited to see him because last time we saw each other in person was at this national convention that I used to work for this. It's like a 7,000 people conference. Like every president except for the current one has been at that event. So it's like a big deal, right? And they have a youth component, and it was great because we had Tony talk in 2 sessions, and he just stole the show. There are all those people there. He was sharing the stage with 2 other people in one, and just one person in another one. And just the energy and just the way he talked and connects with young people, he just stole the show. We had to drag him out of the room because he had to catch a plane on the second one. So it was really funny to see how somebody can be so impactful with people. So anyway, I'll stop talking. Tony, welcome to our show.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And that was a wonderful experience.
So let's see.
Yeah, so that was a wonderful experience. Every time I get an opportunity to share with young kids and make a positive impact, I'm grateful to do so. And the fact that you reached out to me to contribute, I'm more than honored to have done that. And, I try to share little caveats of my life or shifts in perspective that will hopefully send them in a positive direction. And I think people can do that. People can do that through storytelling, but not only that, but through human interaction. And the biggest part of what we do from our martial arts background is we don't talk at people, we talk with people. We make everything we do interactive. We make it a call to response occasion where kids can get up and share and interject and play along, because a lot of people tune out when they're not involved.
Exactly. And the other thing too, and I'm going off script for a minute here, just because it came to mind. It was also a beautiful moment to have Tony at that event because he got to meet two other really awesome people involved in sports, different sports. One was the folks from the Clemente Foundation, and Diane, I know you know baseball, so Roberto Clemente is a big deal. So to meet people, we were able to meet his son and some of the people running the Clemente Foundation. And then he met somebody
Oh,
who we
wow.
hope to have in the show before, Larry Sunderland, who's another person who I love and admire. He's a U.S. national team coach for soccer in the U.S. and also runs the academy over at FC Cincinnati, but he's been in a lot of MLS teams.
Wow.
But it was so beautiful to be able to see how people like you and me, who share a passion in sports, can sort of get together, and regardless of the sport, there is this, I would say, this common denominator of growth and learning, and this eagerness to continue to learn. So it was beautiful to see, just
I'm
to
so
sit
jealous.
back and
We've
watch
been
them
there.
talk and interact, and realize that sports really unifies people. Try to go back on script here. We're going to be talking about, hopefully, if we have time, we're going to be talking about three things. One, we're going to talk a little bit about the successful career that Tony has had in the sport, in his pursuit of the Olympic dream. Then, and probably more interesting, his development into becoming a businessman and a leader, a thought leader in his space, and which includes his writing a book that is out there. We're going to put it on the show notes, but maybe we should start talking first about the book. Just tell us a little about the book. We're probably going to talk about it later, but maybe just tell us a little bit about the book. We'll look learn a little bit more about it.
So it's my book. So let me start asking with you guys a question. So the first thing is this. So let's talk about athletes in general, right? As an athlete, both of you, were your limits physical or mental?
Were our limits physical?
Were your challenges physical, or were they between the ears?
That's a good question. I mean, to kick things off, I think that it was probably more mental, because I felt like I could conquer anything physically. And it was the reminder to myself that, yeah, I could do this, right? And there were times when I'd wake up and go, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? Well, did I actually commit myself to this competition? And then I ended up staying it for, the number of years that I did. Well, for 3 years. And I couldn't believe that I had that long of a run. And it was all mental, really.
We always say, so first thing is, we say character first, psychology first. No matter what you do, it starts with your psychology. And, obviously my focus is the psychology of children, right? The mindset of children. And the reason is my favorite quote is Frederick Douglass. It's easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. But also, everybody's mission, purpose in life is always built on their childhood traumas. So whatever your childhood trauma is, you fixing it is your mission. So like ultimately from here, I felt like I wasn't enough as a child. I felt that I didn't have purpose. I felt like I was nothing. And it's not true. But what I'm trying to do is empower kids and let them know that ahead of me, because everybody has that self-doubt, imposter syndrome, that automatic negative thought, that voice in their head. And not everybody has the tools to navigate out of it. And it's fundamental. It's on how to do that. So what I do is not only just give kids the tools to know they're enough, but I give parents the tools. Because that's where it does. A lot of times parents are doing more damage than good, robbing kids of, well, the biggest one is robbing kids of their autonomy, doing everything for them. And understanding that. And then they say, when I was a kid, I did this, this, and this. And that's what made you tough. and then you do it all for them, and you rob them of those opportunities. So me as an athlete, and me as somebody, it was like I knew that I was trying to fulfill a hole, and the truth is I just needed to be okay with myself. Now, when you put yourself in a situation, you have to understand the psychology of things around you and how that, rumination, is not going to help as a kid. Like talking about your problems constantly is not anything. Acknowledging the problem, knowing it's there is okay. But now the rest of the time we have to do is finding a solution. And so for me as a coach, it's not about me doing it. It's about me putting you in the right direction. And you can't make anybody do anything, but you can influence them and you can inspire them. And my thing is, where's your mind at? And I see it in language, and I see it in actions. And a lot of times there's things that are just going to keep you stuck or get you out of it. And I was talking to Edwin prior to this about, I was so impressed with a guy. And it's so funny because these people tend to be the most successful.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him about, I had a random, I'm a creative brain. I had a random idea of, he has this power shot machine where you hit it and
Mm-hmm.
it registers. I go, man, it'd be cool if the app could do this. I sent him a video. The next day he had it done. I was like, that is action. That's not talk, that's action. Somebody who does that is somebody who becomes successful in anything in their life. Man, I should get in shape. Or, as I'm running, wow, there's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And I think that being able to teach kids that, because at a really young age, and how do we teach? We teach through understanding the awareness, understanding what they're doing. I always use this analogy to kids. I go, do you feel your shirt on your skin? And they say, I go, you do now. And I go, you didn't know it was there before. I go, you didn't know that you were just talking and not moving forward. Right? We didn't know that you would say negative things about yourself and then it would affect your performance. Mm-hmm. And I go, but do you understand that the antagonist is completely true too? If you say positive things about yourself, does that affect who you are? And then they do that. So that's me coaching. And then now I create an awareness. And then we give them templates for being and moving forward. And mm-hmm. I don't do it by accident. We format it. I literally have randomly, this is part of my leadership program. And this is proactive scripts that these kids have to practice.
That's great.
And this is based on, what is this one? This is based on the 5 love languages. I teach 9-year-olds the 5 love languages because they lose social interaction. So I'm trying to teach them how to become, understand people and understand themselves a little bit better.
You touch on a lot of really interesting points, but probably one that resonates as former athletes, and I don't want to speak for all of us, but for myself, but I see it in a lot of former athletes, especially people who have some level of success, is that trauma, right? It serves a purpose. It drives you to a certain level, but what you said, eventually you have to have a way to graduate out of that. So I think it's great that you're not only recognizing that trauma can be a positive driver to success, but eventually you need to find a way to manage it and surrender to your own realities, and then to be able to get to the next stage, to go ahead and allow yourself to work through that. And so it's great that you have that tool for not only for the kids, but I really think it's probably really useful for the parents, because I know if I were a parent reading that, it will childhood, what am I probably trying to prove and what not. And for somebody, and I'm speaking for myself, who has had an interesting relationship with transactional love and having to always want to get a medal or gain success to, because that's how I think people will love me, and try to stay secure, so secure that success to be loved, to be able to graduate out of that and understand that there's other types of love, and you are, you're okay for all intents and purposes for the people that are around you. It takes a long time. So to be able to have a manual, so to speak, to be able to have some tools, I think it's wonderful to do that. but now that served you as a tool. And I know, it was something that that became a driver and gave you a lot of success, in a significant part of your athlete career. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like when you were an athlete, when you you competed for over a decade in one, and were a leader in the sport for a long time. Can you talk to us a little bit about that in regards to how the things that motivated you and gave you the beyond the coaches, right? Gave you the tools that you needed to be able to consistently win. Because I mean, I was lucky. I had some success, but the consistency of being able to do it year after year after year, that's a whole nother level that I personally wasn't able to reach, but you did. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So absolutely. So there's one thing I tell people that's going to separate you from anybody else, no matter what. At the end of the day, it's about the time you put in. And obviously, I was shorter for any division, right? I was 5'8", and I ended up competing in heavyweight. I and I fought in every division from 118 pounds to heavyweight, and I was successful in each one. I was a national champion in several of them, and I worked my way up. And there's a couple of reasons I had worked through them. Obviously, some of them was just maturing and growing, because my first national championship. I won my first time I won at a national level. I was 15 years old as an adult. And so when I ended my career, I was 30, right? Yeah. And that was when I was winning. That wasn't the beginning of my career. That was the beginning of the winning of my career. And the thing that separated me was my identity. I believe that I wasn't more gifted than anybody, but nobody would outwork me. And I think that at the end of the day is very important on how we train kids, because you have to praise effort over ability. And so I'll give you a quick example. So my son, my wife and I worked together, we're completely on the same page. But in the beginning, she was like, "Oh, baby, you're so talented." I go, "He's not talented." I go, "He's hardworking." And she gets it now, my wife. And then to the point where my son became like we brought him to a new gymnastics coach, and I'm very conscious of the power of words. And the first day he's there, he outworks everybody. And he goes, "Man, that kid's a workhorse." And I heard that, and I go, "Did you hear that?" Not hearing it from me, I go, "Your coach called you a workhorse. Your nickname is a workhorse." And I go, "That's the coolest thing." And we started calling him workhorse. Other kids started calling him workhorse. And I did this intentionally. I planted the seed, right? It's kind of like who named Michael Jackson the King of Pop? Michael Jackson.
I do not know.
Michael Jackson.
Did he name himself that?
Who named Elvis Presley the King of Rock and Roll was his manager. And now everybody just calls him that because it's an identity. And he lives up to his identity. And other people believe it. And then he believes his identity. And now he's stuck in his own loop. So from here, now, still to this day, I go, people with talent feel like they don't have to work. But if people's identity is work, is that I am going to outwork you, they will always win. And my ultimate goal with my kids is I tell them, I go, your goal, great, winning is great, but your goal is to have an experience and to gain experience. Because if your goal is to gain experience, you will be successful 100% of the time. If your goal is to win, good luck, right? But the thing is from here, all we got to do is we go out swinging. You go out and you leave everything out every time, and nobody outworks you. And that's it. And I go, at the end of the day, that means you gave full effort, and full effort is full victory. Mm-hmm. And I go, and that was ingrained inside of me because I believed I wasn't good enough, which was great in the sense that of it. But the hard part is when I would try to outwork people, eventually my experience and talent had caught up to me, and I didn't know how to slow down until I got injured. And then they taught me to slow down, and I go, wait a minute, am I actually good enough now? Because I put in my 20,000 hours and I've put in more work than everybody else, and I can actually technically beat people. I don't just have to outwork them all the time. and it kind of built up. But it was a hard transition for me because I didn't believe in my techniques. I believed in my work ethic. I believed in my endurance. I believed that nobody could outwork me. And but I think that's the base for anything. Can you teach a kid to be a hard worker? And I might ask you, for your children, what's the number one character trait you would want for your kid? This is a tough one. It's not, it like you don't have to. You could be several. Just pick the first one that comes to your mind.
Well, I'm gonna cheat because I have a son who was an athlete in different sport, is an athlete too. But my hope for him was always to have perseverance, which is pretty much related to what you're saying. But yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that. I'm just curious. On like some parents, I just want a good kid, right? Just want to be respectful. I don't really care. I just want to be kind. I want to be a good contributing member of society, which is what we all want at the end of the day, because eventually our legs stop working, right? So, and what about you, Deanna?
If I had a kid, I, would want them to be hardworking and a good kid.
For us,
It's fun.
For my wife and I, we say the number one thing is resilience. Because life is going to hit you hard. Losses are hard. And that's what I love about sport, is because as privileged as our children are, Edwin, and our children are privileged, right? Let's be real. When you work with those kids at LULAC, a lot of those kids are coming from nothing, and our kids are genuinely, they don't have to worry about anything except their grades.
No.
And how hard they have to work, right? Like, so sport is the equalizer, because sport will break your heart, and it will lift you up. My wife and I we took my son to the Olympic Training Center. I lived there for 2 years. I was a resident athlete, traveled all over the world, competed, for the United States. And I went back and I said to my wife, I go, I don't feel good right now. I go, I have this weird feeling here, because this was the highest of my highs and the lowest of my lows. I go, this was important for me in my development, in developing my resilience and becoming who I wanted to be and going in my journey. But it's not like visiting a childhood memory of, going for ice cream with my dad. This was like a lot of heartbreak because of my losses, and a lot of highs, which just gave me like, well, what's the next step? Right. So like, this is like, and that, and the truth of the matter is, and that's what life is. It's not about, it's not about the ultimately just winning. It's about having experiences, so I know how to deal with them and I can share them with other people. And my son was crying when he lost once. He didn't get to go to regionals for gymnastics. My wife wanted to console him right away. I go, let him hurt. I go, the fact that this is a great quote, right? What's the opposite of love?
What is hate? No?
It's indifference. Right? If I hate you, you broke my heart. I still love you. Right? I care. There's something, I don't hate people that I don't give a crap about or whatever it is. But when I just, whatever, and you're in a relationship and there's no fire like that and people give up, then you're in trouble. When they fight for you, when they're angry at you, when they care, you have passion. And I go, in sport, saying, the needle doesn't move when you go, okay, I don't care. I want you to care. Care. Care isn't okay. Being upset is an emotion, and emotions can either fuel you or burn you down. You can't live there, but you have to use it. You have to learn, it's like fire. You have to learn how to either cook with it, right? And if you don't know how to use it, it's going to burn your house down. So, yeah.
It's so in my head it's going everywhere, but my instinct is to share this. And you guys know about this, but for those of you watching us who may not know, there's this thing in Buddhism called I think it's pronounced dukkha. I always think about it, I never pronounce it, but in essence, it's the distance between where you are and the state of let's say happiness, right? And think what you just described, Tony, that's what that is. That's what you teach, what you're teaching your child is, and I think it's beautiful to sort of own your feelings, good, bad, and ugly. All those feelings are important to be experienced, like in stopping them from being experienced and digested. It creates many problems later on, right? So I think it's beautiful that you're able to do that because, I mean, speaking for myself, sometimes it takes decades to figure that stuff out. So, you made a comment about you putting your 20,000 hours or whatever. Like, I was at a lecture listening to Malcolm Gladwell, the guy that wrote up that book, and then he wrote a book to talk against that idea, right? That it's not so much the hours, is what the hours teach you is ways to improve the performance and find ways to hack your performance, which is what you talked about, right? Like when you say you got to that level, but you're like, oh, I'm actually I perform, like my talent and my work ethic sort of what even, and that's what it's about, the process is about. So it's great to for you to be able to work with kids and or your child to be able to own your feeling. Don't wait 20 years or 40 years or 50 years for you to figure this out. Like, deal with it now, because it's just going to make you a better human being.
We have a story. It's one of my favorite stories, and I'm sure you've heard it. It's like a classic, and it's one of my, part of my way I teach is through storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a fundamental story, and it's it's the Chinese farmer, right? And Chinese farmer, he wakes up, he's got this beautiful stallion. He wakes up one morning, and the horse had run away. And all the neighbors and all the farmers come around. They say, "You're so unfortunate. You're so unlucky." And the farmer says, "Maybe." The next day, that horse had come back with 2 other feral horses. And all the neighbors and farmers came around. They say, "You're so fortunate. You're so lucky." And the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's son had gotten on one of the horses, the feral horses, the wild horses, to try to break it. And he got bucked off and he breaks his arm. All the neighbors and all the farmers come around and they say, "You're so unfortunate. You're so unlucky." And the farmer says, "Maybe." The next day, the military had come to town, because there was a war at the time, to draft his son, and they couldn't because his arm was broken. And all the farmers and all the neighbors said, "You are so fortunate, you're so lucky." And the farmer said, "Maybe." And what I say to all, and I live by this code, is life happens for me. And it's a simple phrase that I say over and over again. I have 2 quotes that I live by. It's like, life on my terms and life happens for me. So life on my terms means, like, what does the perfect life look like for me, and how do I create it? Mm-hmm. Right? And I, that's where you, I don't say I don't answer to anybody, but I do find happy mediums. I find a win-win, so we can all get what we want. And then the second one is, like, no matter what happens to me, if I don't train myself, like, people are going to pass in your family. You're going to have an injury. You're going to do this. And what is this to teach me? You're going to miss the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin, right? Whatever it is, you're going to go like, and I go, it wasn't meant to be. And when you live by that code, then you're at ease. You're emotionally in a good place. And I try to teach that from the kids at a young age. I go, why, and that's the thing is, like, why did this happen for us? What are we supposed to learn? What's the greater good? Oh, it wasn't time yet. Or, in that pain or whatever you're going through, is to maybe help somebody else through their pain later. Right? So when we start pre-framing kids, we start teaching that to have that psychology at a real young age and to think like that, you're taking their life into a different direction, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For sure. It's funny. Well, it's interesting you say that, and I wonder if that some of that is from sports, because and Deane and I met in person, and as we continue to speak and get to know each other better, that a similar phrase has come up. My little line to myself is, things don't happen to me; they happen for me, which is similar to what you're saying. And but I think it's such a shift on your mind, on your mindset, and for me, I learned it from this guy who used to be in a hardcore band, who now is a Bhakti yoga monk, and sort of just listening to speak about it was really interesting, and start thinking about it that way, and to be able to communicate with that with other people and see how that shift really changes the way you approach life, and the way you approach things. And maybe my experience, maybe I had done or lived by that code for a long time. I just didn't have a name for it. But once I got the name, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like the other thing I often say, and I even use it on some of my fiction when I write. I say, what happens to me happens to the world by the simple fact that I'm in it. Right. So there is no way that you can be in the world, and whatever happens to you doesn't affect everybody else around you, and vice versa. And if that's the case, right? If that's the case, then everything happens, for you, being able to be able to use that experience to either teach others, learn yourself for something, and so on. Which brings me to this question. Um, Obviously, the book is, it's research behind it. There's a lot of thought to put into it, but a lot of it is really, when I think about it, right? And I had I've been able to see, your career both in person and from afar. It's a reflection, or in a way, it's a result of a lot of the work that you endure, right? And a lot of the efforts and sacrifices you endure. I mean, the book is really, it's almost like the teachings of Antony, So um, I'm curious to learn about what do you think are the lessons? Not so much as competitions, we spoke about that, but transitioning from being an elite athlete into what I call civilian life, or the real world. Like, how did because I think those lessons are reflected in the book. But can you talk to us a little bit more about your own personal experience of transitioning from being a elite athlete and transforming into a leader, into the leader in the real world, with where there's Olympic training centers not there, and you're not surrounded only by elite athletes, where you had to live with everybody else that's just normie.
So thank you. That's a great question. So I've always been in a position where I wanted to help, and even I've been a person of abundance. So if I can share knowledge, sometimes it's to the point where I remember I was teaching this one guy who was 6'6", and we used to spar together. And I was like, I showed him this, like, so his back kick, I fixed his back kick. I go, you're 6'6". I go, if you throw a straight back kick, lunge off the line like this, like, so it means a straight, he could stand straight. I don't know if you've seen like John Jones knock Stipe Miocic, pretty much like that. But I go, if you can keep it in a straight line, either the person has to go straight back or to the right, and then it's a win-win for you. Like, it's so hard for anybody to do that. And I was like, and then I ended up fighting him, and first thing he did was throw that stupid back kick at me. And I was like, okay, and in life is like, I'm still going to be an abundant person, because I know at the end of the day, even though that was a challenging thing for me to get hit by the one thing that I would share with somebody, right? Ironically enough, I saw it and I was like, if he did this, I didn't know how to stop it. I also didn't know I'd be fighting heavyweight, right? And with that being, at the end of the day, I will still be abundant, because that's my nature, and it's my vibration, and it's who I am, and it's what I was meant to do, to help, to serve. And I feel that at the highest level of myself is contribution. That's why when you ask me to speak at Blue Black, I'll drop everything to do it, because I can contribute and I can make an impact, and it just speaks to my heart. And I'm a romantic in that sense. So when I can give to people and I can make an impact in a positive manner, I will. Now, I can't be everywhere at once. And I have 2 studios, and I'm very big on how do I teach other people to do what I do. I started with, number one, I'm the storyteller. I have over 70 fables and stories and personal stories that I share that I think make huge impacts, that have impacted my life, and it shifts my perspective. Number 2, I have tools for parenting. Little things that I see when I see people coaching or parenting, I look at them and I go, in my opinion, you're doing damage, right? So one of the first things that we do, I'll give you an example. 3.5-year-olds come into school, and I tell them to take their shoes off and put them in the cubby. And mom and dad try to take their shoes off. I go, let them take their own shoes off. I go, you're robbing them of their autonomy. And that autonomy is what's going to give them confidence. And then you're wondering why your kid has challenges with confidence. They're not doing things by themselves. By the time your kid is 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they should be making omelets. They should be folding their own clothing. They should be doing things like this not because you're lazy or you're a drill sergeant, but because it defines their character. Second thing is teaching. There's special ways to teach. That's just communication. A lot of people lack that. That's not good. I don't like that. Do this better, whatever it may be. Or love your effort. It'd be much better if you did it like this. That's right. Great. Keep it up. That's called praise, correct praise. People don't fundamentally know that as parents, as in coaches. And I was like, how do I teach not only my staff, but the parents? And then how do I give a gift to them to share that with the kids? And I just took all the things that I've been collecting through the years and all the things that we had done in our certifications, and I broke it down and I created a book. And that was it. I mean, honestly, this is more of a manual than it is. And it's for me to go this is everything I do. Within the last couple of years, since I'm so fixated on growth, I could probably revise it and add some more things, but you're good to go now. Follow it, template it, and I can always reference it back. And then, hey, I tell parents, I go, check out the 6 forms of manipulation and testing and the amygdala shutdown. I go, you're going to know how your kids are controlling, who's in charge at this time, who's training who. And I go, those are the 2 things I want you to look at. I go, because every time you hug your kid and they go, nobody loves me, that kid is training, you're training that kid to be a martyr. Do you get that one or no? Because what happens is instead of saying, if I reacted and said, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. You're loved. Are you getting love for being a victim? Or are you getting icky feeling when you try to victimize yourself?
It's an icky feeling.
Yeah, it's and what do people do? They go to love and away from icky, right? Mm-hmm. So, and what we do is we're not conscious of that, but we're and then same thing is some kid has a violent outburst and you give him a lollipop. He just trained you. I go, then that's when you have to stay calm and you go, look, I understand you're upset. Then we empathize and we try to bring him down. But if I don't react and I don't give in and you don't get a damn lollipop, and then it's we're so mammalian, right? Where our brain is just the best book you can read on training a child is Be a Pack Leader by Cesar Millan.
Oh my God, I love Cesar Millan. I love him. I think he's amazing. But I think, just you telling us about all of this, your process in getting to the point that you did in coming up with this book and just, sharing all of your teachings and your fables, it sounds like a masterclass that every parent should really go out, run to the store and buy your book. I see so many not problems, but I see a lot of children who maybe lack the right oversight or at least, the right guidance in terms of how to conduct themselves in even a public space. And I don't know. I just question. I'm not a parent, so I don't know. So that's why I never.
From an outside looking in, I love that. So let me ask you a question. What do you think that the biggest challenge, and obviously with kids right now, that's a social setting, yes? Mm-hmm. What's the biggest challenge with those social settings? Why is it becoming more apparent and more abundant that people are not following general rules of society? And what do you think that is?
I think it's because the style of parenting has just changed. And I don't know when or how or where it happened. But for example, I was at a bar restaurant, more bar than restaurant, with a girlfriend. And we were so excited to hang out together. We don't see each other often. So we had this table by the bar, and there was, another table behind us. And it was 2 women, but they brought their very, very young child. And they were not minding the child at all. And it was just like, I'm like looking around going, oh my God, has this become a playroom? I don't know. I was just really, I tried to ignore it. I did. I ignored it, but it was in the back of my mind. And I just was, oh, why is this happening? But I didn't say anything. I'm not going to. It's not my place. Nobody at the restaurant said anything either. And that was that. Like our night was okay, but we were kind of like, yeah, okay, well, I'll see you later.
There's a fine line there, right? So is it,
Yeah.
and is it kids being kids? It's like when you have a kid who cries on an airplane, you can't get upset at the kid. The kid's just trying. No, but I'm saying I'm going to be two parts to it.
Yeah.
Then the other king is when we lose our common courtesies, and like as a society, we don't have fundamental things of like, excuse me's, please and thank yous, if you don't mind, like let me get instead of may I have, not holding the door for somebody. These are fundamental things that are like, Southern living is pretty big on these things still being ingrained. But part of the thing is there's a transition in society, and a lot of it has to do with electronics. And I believe, especially with children, you try to keep them far away from those kids as long as possible. And the data just keeps showing more and more. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody or anything like this. All I'm saying is I see the patterns of the challenges, and they always come from electronics. And it comes in a form now of our kids being socially neutered, right? It's cut off. My kids, we teach them. My son and daughter have never played a video game. My daughter is 13 years old and she has a flip phone. My son, we're going to keep a phone as long as we can, as far away as we can. Because even when they have other friends are on their TikToks and they're 12 years old and they're acting like 28-year-olds, it's inappropriate. They're really shooting past their stages of development. They're not being kids anymore, and it's unfair. And not only that, but it gives them sass and it gives them this attitude, and they learn a common basic common courtesy. And a lot of times, even parents are already there because now we have Gen Z who is actually raising them, who have been raised they were the first generation to be raised by the iPhone.
Yeah.
And these things are like, the parents are more on TikTok than the kids are. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, is that we are losing these basic fundamental communication skills of society. And I think that's where my newest project has been my leadership program. And it is all role playing to understand on how to interact with people. I have to teach people how to look people in the eye and shake their hand. Like that is a fundamental thing. And then I have to tell a story behind it.
So I love the work that you're doing. I love that you're teaching that, because I see that. I used to see that every day in the corporate world. There were some young people who did not refuse to meet the client. They would rather sit at their desk and continue on with their research. But they were just like, no, I'm too busy. And they were literally that shy. They couldn't, they physically, I couldn't make them, but it was very interesting to see that they just did not interact socially in a way that, you thought, wow, like, how did I miss that?
Well, that's so funny, even vocabulary, like that, just like those things that are like when people say that, like they commit to it before it even happened, right? Like they're saying that I can't do that, or like I won't be able to. And that's something that they have their own limiting beliefs on, that somebody didn't break through at a young enough age. For me, we are so aware, because as an athlete, I mean, my limits I read all my books were on sports psychology. Psychology. At the end of the day, it comes down to a belief.
Yeah.
And a belief is your absolute truth in what you think that you can and can't do. And then for me, I believe in manifestations. So I'm going to will it to happen, because at the end of the day, if I focus on the thing that I want, I'm going to get it if I focus long enough. Yeah. And then back to what Edwin said, I know that everything I do has an impact on the future. It has, the butterfly effect is real. Right? And whether it be good or bad, it's going to be in the right direction. So for example, if you find that people that have challenges with alcoholism on a long enough timeline, they always have the most problems, right? And it's not like because they have bad luck, it's because they are making a decision to put them in place of bad luck.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got the worst luck. I got a DUI. I don't know, how many times did you drink when you drink?
Mm-hmm.
I go, oh, I have the worst luck. I got into, a fight with my girlfriend. I go, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock, especially when you're drinking.
Yeah.
I go, at the end of the day, I go, but if I did things like a butterfly effect of making, and I see it in my business, putting on events that celebrate people, taking care of, my own body, making the difference between a choice between a certain kind of beverage or not that I'm having, whether it be a sugary drink or water. The butterfly effect of that echoes. And we all have to know that like when we start teaching kids like that is like, no, there's consequence to every action, good or bad. I go, so at the end of the day, do more good. And you're going to be overflowing with cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will bad things happen? Sure. But you're going to be stacking the cards in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the
fact. Mm-hmm.
the common denominator I see in the things both of you are saying is it's been in the world. It's really key, right? Because some of the work that I do and I've done in preventing child trafficking and extreme behavior interventions, which is some really ugly stuff. And I know we've spoken on the podcast about this before. Or all these bad guys on online gaming reaching out to kids as young as 8 and pretty much grooming them to become terrorists, far right terrorists or far left terrorists or jihadis or whatever. All of them use the same approach, and it's and really what it is their competition is not turning somebody into a skinhead or an extreme right wing person or an extreme left person. Their main competition is their friends. They want to keep the child on that screen for as long as I can, because if you keep that child on the screen, that child is not spending time with anybody, and that child is creating a story that he and I say he because it's mostly young men, unfortunately, that he's going to believe. And going back to what you were saying, Tony, we are the stories we tell ourselves, right? And what should we call it? So when you start hearing and believing that girls hate you, girls are bad, stay away from them, and that you have this, you know, you can do whatever you want and hurt people, and grow up to like hurt animals and so on. Like all that is fabricated to molding you into something that that you don't have to be, but because that's all because all you have is access to a screen, then you can get in some serious trouble.
Well, what you hear is what you become, right? So these guys are
Right.
hijacking their inner monologue, and we know that because we're affected by music, right? Music will influence our fashion. Will music will influence our thought process. It'll inspire us, or it'll send us away. And we know that through for me, I'm conscious of it because the truth of the matter is we are such tribal beings that we want to be around things. And the funny thing, I'm just very conscious of putting my kids in atmospheres and controlling those atmospheres. Now, the truth of the matter is I am no different than these guys, except my message is trying to put you on the right track, because you will be programmed. You will be programmed by the Roblox, TikTok, Netflix, violent femmes, or
Instead of violent films.
or your martial arts. Matter is, and that's what the thing is, like even in other spaces like this, people have known to groom. And that's what we have to keep an eye on. And as parents, we have to make a conscious effort to to hijack their inner monologue while we still can. And eventually they'll stop listening to you. So you have to put them in rooms where people have good intent. And not only that, and not do it blindly. So I always say to my kids, I go, I believe in loyalty, but not blind loyalty. I go, don't just say that I'm doing it. Like if I'm doing something moral or ethically wrong, leave. I'm encouraging you to leave if that doesn't meet with your values. I go, you are my inspiration to be on the right track, because I have the ability to be horrible or good, just like you. And but I'm making a conscious effort to do that because I know I have a bigger responsibility. But once again, if I'm not living up to your standards, I go, be loyal, but be conscious. And if something is, don't have blind loyalty. Be loyal to your ideas and values, and if I break them, you don't have to. You can leave. You don't have to be that. When it happens is like when you teach people to just be for blind loyalty, they stick to a cause even when it doesn't stick to their values anymore. That's, and then that's where and that's what people do with any political party or religion or even our friend group, even when they're wrong. And then that's where you have to be a free thinker in that sense. And that's what we try to teach those kids. So you can be loyal, but no blind loyalty. It's funny. I know you keep wanting to lean into like specifically me being an athlete, and I keep going back to kids, and obviously you can tell what my passion is, right? Because even as an athlete, I was trying to collect those medals just like you, right? And all those things did not feel what I needed to do. And all these things that I hear and say are what I needed to hear and had to learn along the way. I'm trying to give everybody the cheat code to what you're really trying to fulfill, And it's like, so I can build superhero athletes, but I want to build I want to teach them how to guard the door to their mind first.
No, that's wonderful, Tony. No, and yes, I'm actually, and maybe because I like I said, I witnessed your career as an athlete, but what became more interesting to me was your former athlete life. When my son started, when he started showing signs of of success in his own career, he had a really neat coach in Barcelona that used to tell him the life of an athlete is very short. The life of a former athlete, however successful you are, is very long. So you really need to work on becoming a very good former athlete. And I was so happy that somebody told him that when he was 10, and that stuck with him, and that has influenced the way he lives. And I know for you, Tony, you learn it in a different way. Like you learn it through experience and whatnot, and through all those hours of hard work. But in your behavior and the work you do, and even your book, those are all testimonies of all that learning, right? Which I think is more interesting than all the success you had in the ring, regardless of how great it was, because you touched on something that we actually have spoken about this a lot. I hate it, but Deane really hates it. It's this whole looks micing thing that's out there right now, where it's really, I don't know if do you know what that is, Tony? Oh, you want to tell them about it?
Looks maxing is a term that has evolved to describe the men that try to achieve what in their mind is the most beautiful looks that a man can achieve, and will do whatever is necessary to achieve that goal of being the perfect man. And that could be taking steroids, taking
meth and steroids.
Taking GLP-1s, taking hormonal drugs to prevent hair loss. So all the things that you can possibly imagine to become that ideal man. And that ideal man may be so beautiful that he also may not need women. So there's a hint of that. What is that term? A hint of the incel in that type of movement that unfortunately has grown exponentially, unfortunately, because of this one young man who goes by the moniker of Clavicular. And he became famous by accident. So a bad accident was what I call it. But he got kicked out of university and just started, streaming all the activities that he pursued to become this ideal version of himself. And he started at the age of 14 or 13, getting, steroids shipped to his home through the black market. His parents tried to stop it. Every time his parents tried to stop it, he'd just find another PO box to get it delivered. And so the cycle continued. And
and there's this whole there's this whole subculture around it. But and then we actually, because we talked about it so much here, I did some research. We started learning more about it. It's tied very much to a lot of the like Nazi idealization of the perfect male, and
Yeah.
it's tied very much close to eugenics. It's tied to so many of these really ugly things that really hurt society and hurt men, right? And 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 really, it, to me, and we spoke about this before, to me, it's really a reflection of where society is, because we're so obsessed, so self-obsessed, and we are using our meaning, the Western way of means of finding meaning is through self-indulgence and self-obsession. And we don't realize that the key is what you've been talking about all along, is servitude. It's not servitude, but rather being of service to others, and being part of your space and your environment. That's really the key to finding meaning in your life that's long lasting. And this is the total opposite. We have so much freedom that we're so bored. We're borrowing trouble and doing all these crazy things. So it's great to have people out there in the real world that are teaching kids how to become human.
But not to play devil's advocate, but just to hear. So if I in 1984 I get a pink mohawk, what do I want from the society? What am I trying to reflect? Being what?
I have a theory in that one, but yeah, I think it's two things. I think you're trying to hide because by scaring people from getting to know you. That's
One,
why I think it's the truth. I mean, that's why I did it.
you're creating an identity, right? But here's the thing: is your identity is I am different, I am significant, I am something special. So nobody has a pink mohawk that doesn't want significance to see that they were. In the 50s, if you're a greaser, you're carrying a switchblade, you're smoking a cigarette. If you're in the 80s and you're doing crack cocaine and you're doing heroin, if you're getting into if you have your Jerry curls like Eazy-E and you're carrying and you're whatever it is, this is not a new problem. This is not a new challenge. This is something different. That's all it is. And have kids always been able to put themselves in a position to destroy themselves for the idea of significance? It's nothing new. Whether it be jumping off a bridge, whether it be trying to be significant for being in a gang, whether it's trying to be significant from it's just another version of it. As a matter of, and if you think about it, it's like that's how people get into hard drugs. Period. Nobody does a bump of cocaine by themselves. They need peers to do that. The difference is online is now you have people who are reacting to who you are, and it's just basically feeding your significance and who it is. Can you stop it? It's going to happen in some form or fashion in every way, because the truth of the matter is that's how you have separated yourself from the pack. This is how he's gotten love from being this extreme version of himself. Even his parents reacting don't even care. We talked about the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference.
Yeah.
Even the people who hate him, he's taking them as attention. So bottom line is this is attention seeking thing, whether it's and obviously we could say is it narcissism, but it's nothing new. But the thing is, and how many people can speak to that? Because if we talk about BBLs and girls who are getting like lip injections and breast implants and OnlyFans and things like this at such a young age, right? And I just can't wait for that. And then that's the truth of the matter is these are nothing new. I mean, prostitution was in the Bible. People were separating themselves and trying to put themselves out there in one way or another, whether it be out of necessity for their own self or out of, and when necessity isn't there anymore, we have no reason to be to hunt, gather because we need to, or they're in a position. Now, what am I going to do with my free time? I'm going to be significant. And that's the thing. That's where at this point is I think it's nothing new. I think it comes down to having, this is where I'm so big, is a dog with a job is a happy dog. Back to Steve Milan. A dog with a job is a happy dog. So this kid didn't have an identity, now has an identity.
Yeah.
So important that your son, his I am statement is I am a soccer player. I'm politically, if you tell a kid I'm politically motivated, they're going to look, act, feel, and dress that way. If you say I am a martial artist, hopefully You're acting like a monk in my studio. If you're in a boxing studio, you're going to act a little bit gangster. If you're playing basketball, you're probably going to talk some junk. Like, the bottom line is your cultures reflect who you are. This guy's in an online culture which is completely celebrated only by literally debating. I'm no different right now. Do I use this stupid thing or not today so the lighting looks better? Because all you can see is this. And at the end of the day, this is who is giving him his feedback on whether or not who he is and his significance. And the reactions, positive and negative, have leaned into who he's become, and then people have admired and mirrored him. But the truth of the matter is, that's nothing new. I mean, there's always going to be a thing, because to quote Christianity, we're born sinners. We are looking for the spice of life, the thing that's bad, the thing that pokes the bear, and just to poke the bear.
And it's because our prey drive has been really replaced by everything else around us. We don't have we don't have the luxury of, a dog's prey drive, and I agree. Everything is tied to a person's identity, their values, their priorities. It's all linked to identity. And if they don't have an identity, they look for it externally. And
how old is this kid?
Right. He's in his 20s. He's in his 20s.
What do you think him at 40 is going to look back on it and think, because I was an idiot in my 20s too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In a different version. I was an athlete, but I was also, I thought I had an idea. I was kind of on the right path. I'm basically baseline of a good person. But I'm also this far from being the worst person in the world or being in the right direction. I'm one of butterfly effect from being here or here.
Yeah.
And, if I look back we all look back at the dumb things we did. Like, and it's so funny. I see my daughter now is almost 13. And I try to give her as much tools for, but you see how kids react. And you're like, this is such an insignificant blip in your life. You have no idea. And who you are at 13 is not 23. It's not 33. It's not 43. It's not 53. And every 10 years, I mean, I'm 47 in September. Who I was at 37 is not who I am now. And that's the ultimate goal is growth. And that's because I literally, I'm in the best point of my relationship with my wife as it's ever been. Better than when we first got married. And the reason is I'm making a conscious effort that we do things together, we spend time together, and we are growing together. Like, we literally do workshops. Like, I'm not just going like, hey, our life is great. I'm like, no, we got to work on this. And when you make that conscious effort, you're going to grow. The truth is, this kid is going to go one way or the other. The butterfly effect is going to send him, and he's going to come full circle, and he's going to think he was an idiot. But the truth is, like, how many people we know that had overcome drug addiction and come back, right? Versus this is no different.
Yeah.
They're just into it right now, and then when you catch them in their 20s, they're like, we're riding high. I'm Steve-O, so anyway.
I think the only challenge that makes things a little bit different now is the amplification of this self-obsessions and how it's rewarded, right? Because people there's a perverse incentive because you make so much money acting like a fool online and doing all these harmful things, right? So and I think that's where people in real life are so important,
Yeah, but also I had my friend Nick was a squatter in high school, and he lived on St. Mark's, and he had a tattoo on his penis. You know what I mean? And he smelled like hot garbage and had a Rottweiler. You know what I mean? For what? Same thing. Except, the bottom line is I don't even know if he's still alive. You know what I mean? And the truth of the matter is, some of us are going to make it out. Some of us aren't. Some of us are going to go down these horrible paths, and some of us aren't. And some of them are going to get their significance driven from it. For me, my significance is no different. I am an athlete. My significance comes from, living a clean lifestyle, being an achiever. I just got it from somewhere else. If TikTok wasn't around, would I have been a dumb idiot too? And, I don't know, getting face tattoos and trying to make myself different. I don't know. But the bottom line is I was fortunate enough to be in the path of people who were around me who influenced me. And that's the thing at the end of the day is like, as a parent, you, I have to be very careful I stopped telling people that my kids don't have phones and don't play video games because it is almost like I'm judging them. But I should be.
But and I see your perspective, and I mean, that's too bad that people think that you're judging them, because I don't see it as such. I see it as that's amazing, but I know the kind of people that would have or just immediately think that, it's something that unfortunately
they never say it.
Yeah, no, you know.
And I'll say, and they're like, and they immediately become defensive, but they only get it up. And I'm literally in a meeting with them, and they hand them a phone. I'm like, put that thing away. We don't do that here.
That's too bad. You know what? I'm yeah. It's sad that you have to be aware of that. You know what I mean? That there are people who feel that they're being judged when you tell them that about your life.
But don't we all feel like being judged? Like at the end of the day, so but that's the thing is that for me, and that's why for me it's about like I have to be very strategic on the way I say it. But there's no way for that because it's here's the positive caveat to what you just said. I don't drink. Like I probably it's not my thing. I probably have I've had I don't drink, but I'll have drink once a year, and now I don't have it at all. Like that's what I would have it once or twice a year. And I made that choice a long time ago. I just don't think it's the butterfly effect in the right direction for me. Mm-hmm. And I'll go to parties and I won't drink. Mm-hmm. And then people will, that's the one thing that you like socially that people will kind of like get on you about that you didn't do. Like, how come you're not drinking? Come on, one drink. I'm like, leave me alone. Like I'm just, and then, or kind of judge you like, what's wrong?
I know, it's not like that.
Then here's the thing. Here's the butterfly effect. Several people a year, 2 years later, when they stop drinking, I'm the first person they message. And hey, man, I stopped drinking. And I'm like, it's been 348 days now. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Like, that's exactly it. So at the beginning, they were judging because everybody wants a cosigner to their bad behavior.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. While being in corporate, I was the only one who brought my lunches in out of a team of 80, 90 people, and I used to work on the McDonald's account, long-standing client of over 30 years at the agency that I worked at, multinational. I have never felt more I guess isolated within a community because I did not eat the McDonald's whenever they would order. But then it got to the point where, I don't know, I felt like she wouldn't even check in with me, the VP at the time, oh, did you want to maybe order something else? No, it would just, order would come of all these burgers and fries and everything else and hot cakes and stuff. And I'm like, there's like nothing here that I can eat. And she'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask you, And so I asked to be removed from the account. I just couldn't handle it anymore because I was not, I couldn't come up with ideas knowing that it would be to sell another burger or another Big Mac. And I'm like, get me off this account. But I felt like, they judged me. And also they would, I think it made them feel better when they could poke fun at me in a weird way. Like these other younger kids, they'd be like, oh my God, are you eating, rice and chicken again? And I'm like,
well, that's the truth. And until they go on, and not everybody understands your path.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part is like, you want to be around people. We can choose, I have a handful of friends, and my handful of friends have good relationships. Mm-hmm. They're healthy.
Yeah.
They take care of themselves, and they're people who are achievers in the sense that they want more from life. And what happens is like you are your proximity, and I work so hard to stay away from to protect my community because I know that I always visit my friend out in he has a place in the Keys, and he has he invites one of his best friends over a lot. When his best friend comes, I don't like to go, and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with his best friend's children.
Mm.
I don't like their behaviors, and I know that they are going to. I make my kids conscious of it so they know how not to act. But a long enough timeline, you become your proximity. So I'm I was like, hey, we're not going. We're somewhere else this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do that because I'd rather just not be in a position where I am I'm subjecting my kids to that, because I'm more conscious of it. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
the more you eat junk food, the more I'm wanting my chicken and rice.
Mm-hmm.
All I see is that is the devil, and I'm like, that's the antithesis of what I need to be, because I know that you're showing me by who you are
Mm-hmm.
that this is what the outcome is. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, I have to. It doesn't get better. As you get older, you have to make more of an effort to hold on to this body, to
Mm-hmm.
hold on to your mind,
Absolutely.
to hold on to your health, and to protect your environment, because I am extremely tribal. I know that when I go to New York, my accent changes. I'm not trying.
That's fun.
I ain't trying to change my accent.
Does that happen to you too, Edwin? Oh my god.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
Oh my god, I love it.
Queens, no Queens.
So you can't help it, and a lot of my accent starts to change, and it is just a survival mechanism that my brain naturally does, and it goes to be because we are a part of a tribe. So I'm like, you hang around things that are negative, that are that are horrible, a long enough timeline, you become it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I protect those things, and making a conscious effort to bring to my children.
Good.
It's hard because I don't. We had this discussion for my son is begging for homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
My son is a gymnast, and he does Taekwondoist, and I don't believe in idle time. I believe in busy kids.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have iPhones, what are we going to do? We got to keep you busy. Like my kids, if I showed you my travel schedule for the summer, I'd be like, you would. Not only is it taxing emotionally, but financially, right? But at the end of the day, that's all I have, right? We got to give them. What else are they going to do?
Yeah.
Because and my son is in public school.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter too, and they're a baby. I want him to continue to be in public school for a couple of reasons. I want jerks to be around him. I want him to navigate through that. You understand politics when you start to deal with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You understand timelines. Those are the two greatest things that you could do. You have to learn politics with teachers and students, and you have to get work done when it's supposed to be done, right? In a homeschool, I can go that's all. This is not necessary.
Yeah.
You don't need art and music or like this unless it's the music or art you want. And I like this, and we can. But having him in the public school, kids are going to be having meltdowns, having horrible attitudes. They're going to have they're going to treat him like crap. He's going to get his heart broken, or my daughter's going to get their heart broken, and I need them to navigate that on their own, because I cannot create that in a homeschool atmosphere. And not only that, but listen, why does this guy peacock? You know what peacocking is? This guy.
Do you know what that is?
I can imagine what it is, but tell me what the definition is.
So this guy, the ultimate. What's his name? The Crimson, whatever. The Botox steroid kid.
Yeah.
Oh, clavicular.
The Crimson.
Right. Clavicular.
Why does he? So, at the end of the day, peacocking is what you do to make yourself significant to attract women.
Okay, so that's what he's doing, except he wants to attract women and not really stay with them. So
but
he wants to attract them and discard them at the same time.
That, you know what that sounds like to me? A 20-year-old.
Yeah.
That's what 20-year-olds do. They're and it's by design, right? Spread your seed, whatever it is. Run, hunt, create, procreate, right? And that's the ultimate goal, right? So it's and he just found that this is the new version of it. Yeah. When the other day it was I'm a greaser. I put my hair back, and then in the 80s I I'm a punk rocker. And then like in the 90s, I got a skateboard. And then in 2000s, you know, I dye my hair blonde and I look like Justin Timberlake. Like every freaking whatchamacallit has their own version of peacocking. It's just this, and it all comes down to the fundamentals.
Right.
What is he trying to do? Like it,
he's trying to attract. Yeah, he's trying to attract.
Peacocking. So at the end of the day, when you see that to me, I go, look, this guy has his pick of the litter. He could do whatever he wants, literally. He gets. How many DMs does he get a day, right? Like he found the hack. Like and you think that's going to stop? But that's what the ultimate goal of a hormone-driven, especially hopped-up hormone-driven 20-year-old is going to be doing. You know?
Yeah.
It's just public.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, he recently OD'd, and that was all captured on film.
He's in jail, I think. He was high on like he did hormones in some, I don't know, some kind of drug, and then he tried to kill an animal. It's just a mess. But
but also, River Phoenix. Like this is not a new thing. You know what I mean? Also, what was that? What was the guy before River Phoenix? The guy from the blue jeans, hair come backwards, James Deane. Like all these things are real. They're like there's everything is cyclical. It's nothing new, and it always comes from the same thing. Like it's just hopefully we create an awareness, and that's the thing is nobody guided this kid properly at a young age. Nobody made him feel like he was enough, so he had to get it from somewhere else. And that's my goal. My goal is to create an awareness. It's like, hey, listen, this is going to happen. And I go on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone is 0, but you try to make it as long as you can.
I had an epiphany when you were speaking earlier, and I want to share with you guys. When you were talking about allowing your children to be in public school and to experience what I will summarize as life, bottom line, right?
Yeah.
It just brought me back to my own life experience growing up, in Queens and into college too. So I've always been a straight edge kid from day one. I never done drugs or alcohol, just mostly because the music I listened to and the sport, right? But I always been around different types of people too, different like subcultures. And I had friends who were potheads, had friends who drank. But what it just got me thinking, Tony, I was with them, and they never bothered me. They never offered me a drink. They never offered me a smoke, and they show a certain level of respect that they respected that I was straight edge. And it was like they would be like, oh, that's just him, that's how he is. And I think for a long time I thought, it's just because I'm so cool that I'm, again, part of my identity. I'm different and whatever, and that makes me special, and that's why these people don't come at me with that. But really, when you think about it, it's really it's probably more to the credit of the people that I was around, the coaches that I had, the teachers that I had, that sort of gave me that foundation of saying, you can be in a space, but you don't have to surrender to the environment. You can be yourself, and people will still love you and be your friend and care for you. Because like you said, we just want to be loved. At the end of the day, we just want to be loved, right? So if you want to be around friends that, are hypersexual or do drugs or occasionally drink when they shouldn't be because they're teenagers and you're straight edge, but you like them for some other reason, and you guys kind of click because you're friends, there's a space where you can live with that and navigate through all that, through all this, what I call playground politics, right? That will build you into a serious human being. So I think it's great that you're doing that. But I just thought about it. I should give credit to everybody else that helped me, that raised me, instead of just give it all to myself. Because it sounds like that's what you're doing.
You are your proximity. As a matter of fact, so for me, sport is non-negotiable in my house because I know what it does. And it builds character. At the end of the day, there's so many things that I can put you in a position, and you have to do martial arts, you have to do education in our house, you have to do school. College is an option later, depending on what they want to do, right? My kids are both honor roll, they're at top level athletes, and it's usually because it's just about what you do with your free time. You just learn how to win at life, and you learn how to work hard at life, and that's it. Like the way you do some things is the way you do all things, and we keep them from falling into the caveat of playing video games for 4 days in a row. They go to bed on time. We keep on the schedules. We keep them busy. My kids love adventure. I mean, to the point where I surprise them all the time. And we'll go and show up to a 5K somewhere, or we'll go on an adventure. And I'm like, we're going this way. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, I want them living their life. We talk about, like, my kids, my daughter, they're going to Colorado. My daughter is leaving to Minnesota. My daughter is going to Detroit for an Alex Warren concert. Like, we're doing, like, my son is going to a jump rope competition. We have him scheduled for a 5K. He's doing gymnastics all summer. All the things that we do, and is like, what do you do when you stop moving? You start dying. And you have this opportunity for growth, especially right now, before you can even think about, like, you don't even know. You just have momentum, and something's going to knock you off, and then you got to get back on. But at the end of the day, is like, just keep going, keep moving forward, keep them busy. I think that's the ultimate goal. As an athlete, that's one of the things. When I retired, I retired, and I put a hard stop to it. I says, because I'll know I'll go back. And I said I had to lead into my next thing, and I did. And I said, well, how do I become? What's my superpower? We used to have this thing, and my superpower is kids. And I go, well, because that's my next superpower, because I thought competitive athlete was my old thing, and then this is my new thing. I go, I'm going to lead by example, be fit, but kids are my superpower, and that's what I've got better at. And within the 20 years of me running my martial arts school, I would say that I've become a local expert, and that's where they call me the Kid Whisperer, which is a Cesar Millan thing, right? Because that's why I wrote the book called Whispers of Wisdom. And it's basically us knowing and seeing things that other people don't see, like we're in the Matrix.
That's so awesome. You are definitely a version of the modern yogi. You leading by example and changing people. Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff.
The only inspiration is the kids. Like, at the end of the day, is I refuse. There's nothing I hate more than hypocrisy. I refuse to be a hypocrite. I have to I can't tell you to do something if I'm not doing it myself. So I move my body. And then you see parents do it all the time. And even I have to remind myself when I see my kids compete, especially my daughter now, she competes in Taekwondo, and I want her to do things, and I got to shut my mouth because I forget what it's like to be 12. I let her coach do it. I step back and I bite my tongue, and I want to say strokes, and I'm like, I was pretty good at this. I know what the hell I'm talking about, especially when it comes to the psychology of people. Like, sometimes, like, you just go, there's certain things I'm telling her to do, and I just got to shut my mouth. And it's hard as a parent, as anybody, but that's why it's so important that you choose a village. Like, her coach is the Olympic coach. Like, literally, and I have to understand that there's a long process to this, and I cannot be reactive to anything with her. I have to be responsive. I have to respond, not react. I have to think it out. I have to think it through. I have to come out. And sometimes you see it in my face. I'm like, killing me.
Exhibiting restraint.
I'm trying to play it. My poker face ain't there, but I shut my mouth.
Yeah.
And I just let her go her thing. And that, at the end of the day, I have to think what I've always thought with my kids. We're focusing on the long game. I don't care who you are now. I'm focusing on who you're going to become. Because at the end of the day, I remember losing as an athlete. And I had that mentality is, no, I'm just collecting experience. It's not, this is all for me to figure out who I'm going to become. And that's why, I have my kids, and they do multi-activities, because I'm trying to really just focus on what's going to give me the greatest foundation. Number one, they have to be in my leadership program because I'm working on their psychology. My daughter has done leadership certifications through martial arts. We went to the martial arts. She's trained with high level people in other disciplines in martial arts. She trained with Chris Cyborg, which is one of the things, and Leota Machida, and Kapala Landra. And my son, I'm trying to expose him to as many things as he possibly can, just because I think about how busy the schedule is, and I'm like, yeah, but what a great life to collect all this experience. I would give up everything to just do things when most kids are doing what? Playing video games. Like that is literally like who they've become because they're living this imaginary life through somebody else and they're not living it themselves.
Yeah.
And I go, there's nothing worth. That's a false sense of reality, and like it's fake. But your experience is nothing. Nothing is going to do that except give you more of life.
It pays off, Tony. I can tell you from experience. And I tell you this not because you're here, because I told this story before. Again, going back to being fortunate, my son's been privileged enough to similarly to be able to travel the world and experience the world, and and being around different athletes and training with different athletes in different sports at elite level. So to him, and it's probably to your kids probably experience the same thing. To him, seeing somebody that's at the UFC is like, oh, that's so and so, like we hung out with them or like whatever, but it makes a difference because one time we were reading something. No, we were talking about something when he was only like 13. He was getting ready to go to Spain because he got signed to a team. He was going to move there at such a young age. And we're talking, and then I said, you're going to have people that are going to be your like peer mentors, and then hopefully you will become someone's peer mentor in the future. And I said, whatever I've learned in my sport and other people learn in the sport, that you just need to take that with you and see if you can improve yourself and then pass that on to somebody else. And then he goes, oh, like Tony did with like he literally goes, oh, like your friend Tony Graf did with Steven Lopez and all these other people. And I'm like, oh, you read that? I'm like, oh, you read? I'm like, I was so proud of him. He's like, yeah, Dad, I picked out this book and I read about it and I learned about it. But it makes a difference. Cool. It makes a difference. Cool. And you don't even know how. And what you're doing is what I call passive learning. You're always learning with that the intention of learning, right? Like you immerse yourself and you just absorb all the knowledge you can possibly get, and possibly later on, 10 years from now, that story that you learned that you forgot about will come back and teach you a lesson or prepare you to deal with a problem. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's planting seeds, right? You got to think game. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk to you all day. Maybe we need to bring you back and talk even more. But this has been fantastic. At the end, do you have any other thoughts before we go? Because I've been trying to stop. I've been trying to stop myself from speaking because I could do this all day with Tony and you guys.
Oh my gosh, no! The topics that we touched on just ignited a few other questions in my head that I would love to talk more about. And one being how people are just so tethered to their phones these days, and it's really affecting the experience of a communal event. And one example that comes to mind is recently at a theater show, like live theater, the actress Rosamund Pike actually stopped in the middle of her monologue, like in the midst of acting, to say, hey, I get it, you've got your phones, I'm not gonna out the person in the auditorium right now. But I can tell that when you reach for your phone and look at it, as I am here, trying to perform and give you an experience, it actually affects me. And so people are talking about how theater etiquette, people are losing the ability to keep their phones away as they're watching this performance unfold. And yes, it's a comment against, how people have no courtesy anymore, or they've just lost the ability to show that decent respect towards another person or another craft being revealed to them. Like it broke my heart when I heard that, thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to continue and it's going to get worse. And I know that when I used to go to movie theaters, I hated it when people, would break open their phone, but it still happens, even though you have at the top of the screening, put away your phones, and there's this little cartoon that comes up and it shows, this chicken getting taken off the stage by a cane, et cetera, just to remind you, keep your phones away. So I don't know.
Well, to speak on that, I know we have a hard out at 3:30, so I'm going to make it quick. But years ago, like people would do that for a cigarette break, right? They need a moment for themselves. This sometimes is what doom scrolling is, and you find yourself just going, and you're literally an out of body. You're just in this like go mode. I find myself in that position. The only time I'm really ever like that when I'm exhausted, and then I'm just trying to get away. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm in a zombie-like state, and people would do that because they need a moment for themselves, right? They need a moment to break away and do that. And a lot of times, this is the only thing is this creating is more stimulus. It's hard culturally. I know that some things, like for example, they have the phone bags and comedy shows and things like that, but it's just here's the thing: is we just got to navigate through our cultures and being. If I was a performer, I got to learn how to deal with it. Yes.
I know.
Or you change it. Like, Dave Chappelle was the first person to create phone bags, right?
Yeah.
Things that you can either change a culture or you can adapt to it. So if you have the power, that's a different story. But if you're not that powerful, you got to work with it. It's no different than anything else. So, well.
I was going to say, I love our conversation. And yes, to Edwin, we definitely have to have you back.
Okay. Well, I'm grateful, and I that's you get a yes from me right now. So I would love to be back.
Okay, amazing.
Well, thank you guys. Obviously, we just talked about stuff and
a lot of good stuff, lots of show notes. So it'd be great. Thanks so much, Tony. It was great seeing you again, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir. All right. Be safe.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.